The 13th floor. The 13th floor.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 13th floor where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing. I'm your moderator, B. Jones, back in the saddle this week, and I am joined by Mike D. What's happening, baby?
Howdy do, everyone. Howdy do. Howdy do.
I want that on the wall back there since we're going to be Greek fraternities.
That Barack Obama poster right there you looking at? That's the only thing you appreciate is Barack Obama right there.
Yeah, Bruz Hayes. BJ, what's going on, man? How you doing?
It's all good, baby. All good down this way.
There it is. Faison, still got that smile on your face, man. What's happening?
Yeah, man. Good. All is well.
Just all that wisdom making you smile, huh?
Yeah.
You. And our very own growth alchemist. That's what we're doing now, right, Kay? What's going on?
Yeah, man, that's what we're doing. That's what I've always been, man. We just finally put the right name on it.
Yes.
So, but I'm good, man. I'm happy to be here. I'm really thrilled that you all let me be here amongst the Greek on the Greek podcast week.
We got to do it, man. We need your perspective, man. In case things get too far out of line, you know.
Kind of weird. I used to mess people up on campus all the time. They used to be like, "Are you Greek?" I used to be like, "No, I'm Roman."
What?
True story. I've seen it and heard it many times.
And people used to be like, "Well, how long has that been around?"
What?
Oh,
man, the Roman society, though, man. That's crazy. I used to be so caught up in the gladiators, and there was one show that was on TV a while back, man. I can't remember the name of it. It escapes me, but it was really good.
Wasn't Xena?
Huh?
Wasn't Xena the warrior
No,
princess?
it's not Xena. It was about a gladiator type, man, and he started from the bottom, beat I think his name like Xerxes or something like that. Crixus was one of them. I can't remember the daggone show, man.
Got me.
Yeah, you got me, man.
Y'all supposed to help me out, man.
Are you talking about Hercules?
No, man, it's not Hercules.
That's not a gladiator movie.
It was on
like a regular
I think it
show?
came on like Showtime or something like that.
Oh, one of those old ones. Oh.
Yeah. You
We didn't have Showtime in dorms.
gonna make me look this thing up.
Cicero, Caesar.
It was like a little series, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still don't know what you're talking about.
Spartacus. That's what it was.
Spartacus. I do remember that. I remember seeing it, but I remember it.
Spartacus was dope, man. Yeah.
I thought Spartacus was Greek.
He was Roman. And they gave you all of the Roman society and everything that goes with it. They were some interesting individuals. I'll leave it there since we won't have the explicit rating this week.
There you go.
We'll see how far that gets.
Right.
You already got it by showing Barack in the background. Explicit.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Leave that out.
They're talking about gangs. What?
Right?
Hey, so I know Brett is in the saddle, but I was just curious. Did any of you guys fill out a bracket this year for March Madness?
No, if the U can't be all the way into the Final Four, I never do it because I always put them to Final Four, even though I know they won't win. I keep doing
Man,
it.
the ladies just lost about 9:00 by literally by 2 points.
Wow.
When they made the first time in Sweet 16 since 94, I think 95, and they lost the last couple seconds, man.
Damn.
Well, so they lost by 2 points. UCF lost to Duke by 1 point and was actually leading with like 20 seconds left in the game.
I heard.
Wow.
All that. Oh, I saw people talking about it. They were pissed.
Got to box out and make your layups, young man.
Mike D, what you think about this young man Zion, man?
Cam Reddish is the best of all three. Zion good, but I'll book it. Cam Reddish is the best of all three.
So you think he's gonna be
all three who?
All three of the Duke
players.
Showtime guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. RJ Barrett, he has no lift on his game. He's got old man D Wade game. He'll be pretty good.
D Wade got a ring. That old man game.
True. But D Wade had explosion though. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, RJ Barrett got too many moves
The old man knees.
already, which worries me. Like you like 18, 19 years old, young man.
So,
Zion.
okay, did you fill out a bracket?
No, man, absolutely not, man.
I think I don't know enough. I don't watch it enough
It's
time.
hard for me to watch college basketball.
This is the
Too many
only
teams.
that UCF Duke game is the only game that I saw, and it was by chance that I saw. Oh, wow, UC. First, I was even surprised that, man, UCF is in this tournament, and then, after that, I was like, oh wow, and they're winning.
Yes. If you don't know enough, you got to be real deep to get the middle games and the 15, 14, 30. If it's a real upset and who stink.
Just not interesting. This is a big waste of time for me. But as we mentioned, man, we're gonna get into the Greek organizations this week on the podcast. And it sparked from an interesting conversation we had a little while ago. I'm gonna start with you, Carol, man, and you thinking that we were talking about the staples within the Black community, and you brought up the fact that our Black Greek organizations probably are in the best position to affect change within the Black community. So I want to start there as to why you think so, outside of the establishment of like the church or any other organizations.
Right. So, independent from the church, right? So not in the traditional pillar of the Black community, which would be Black religion, right? Mm-hmm. So slightly removed, and I only say slightly because there is a theme, right, throughout the Divine Nine. What are we up to, 10 now? Or is it still nine?
Nah, it's not gonna be anymore. You talking to the right person. It might be 8.
It might be
8.
We going back. Okay, I'm sorry, man. I forgot. I'm on here with some old head Greeks. My fault. But so let's talk. So we'll go back to the Elite 8. So there is a common theme, right, of service amongst all of them, and every person that goes to college. In most cases, most colleges you go, if you know, they're not suspended on moratorium or all that good stuff, you get a chance to at least be exposed, right? So I think you get to touch people in a more genuine, hey, I'm interested in this organization, for those that are that are interested for the right reasons, right? Mm-hmm. So you get to spend time and you get to align people with principles that each organization has. So you're now giving these folks the ability, not just in the present moment, but even after college, because the thing about Black fraternities and sororities is that, unlike the white counterparts, your commitment usually carries on even after, right? There is some level of involvement. So that's why I say, because you get a chance to, one, have intake of people that are like-minded and already show the principles to some level, right? And I know I'm making some generalizations that aren't the case in every situation, but it should be. So if everybody really gets together and now you have a whole brotherhood or a sisterhood that is committed to like goals and things, right? You would think that would continue. Whereas church, that's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have those numbers, that support, right? Once you're in and you're recognized, you can go anywhere and be recognized, right? And have brotherhood continued, sisterhood continue. So I think based on that is why I say you have a little bit more influence at this point than I think even the church does, or at least you should in theory. Obviously, I know things go awry. Some chapters go off the reservation. And of course, I know there are people that are getting in for the wrong reasons, but that's why I made that statement initially.
So theoretically, yeah, definitely have a platform to do all of those great things. The thing that I think gets in the way of that is like the necessity. So you look at all of these organizations, most of us over 100 years old at this point, right? And they were bred out of a different type of necessity back in 1911 or 1906 or 1913. Whereas now, in the 90s, 2000s, whatever, it's a different environment. And so I feel like, and I don't know because I'm not as involved, especially on the undergraduate level, obviously, but I feel like there's a relevancy factor that has kind of escaped, our organizations. I think that although we do great work in the communities, I personally don't know that I see it enough on a larger scale. And it might just due to my lack of involvement. But when you talk about coming together as like a bandit brotherhood or sisterhood or just a group of organizations, the NPHC as a whole, how often do we see or hear from that collective body on issues or moving as a collective front on certain things?
I think that, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'll give deference. Go ahead.
Deference.
I think that
I was speaking my language. There we go, baby.
All right, yeah. First thing I said was no. I'll give deference. Go ahead.
I almost forgot. I gotta congratulate BJ. He got some new guys out there on the yard at UM.
Yeah. I'll get. That's part of. We talk later on as we talk through this.
We'll get to that.
But I think that's part of the disappointment is that it hasn't got to that level because you haven't heard from that collective group. So to Carol's point about having the ability, the infrastructure to impact change community nationwide, there's so much that goes on internally within each organization that prohibits that and serves as barriers. And then collectively as working together as a cohesive 8, 9, however, on unifying under something to move the masses. I think that's kind of where you get some of the separation between, I don't even want to deal with that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and it usually only happens when there's mass concern or mass issues, shooting, something else. You'll see them, everyone collect together and get together. But if it's not that, then it's usually they're doing this or we're doing this. And, when we separate, we're not as strong as we are, but we're all to do as one. At the end of the day, we all have that same goal, is to uplift our brotherhood or sisterhood. At the end, it's just how we get there is a different path, and that path sometimes causes friction.
Totally agree, because the individuals collectively, again, many hands calls for light work, right? We've heard that term across no matter what organization, what family, what party you're in, and the ideal. And so some more background to this whole thing. What another reason why we came up, because we were talking about this group together, right? We're talking about the individuals that are collaborative with this group, within this group. Not everybody's Greek. But when you look at just the support we give each other, yeah, we jostle each other around, right? I mean, that's part of what we do, but it's all out of love and out of fun. And we can have open conversations. So one of the conversations stem from just us sharing and supporting one another. But what do we do on a regular basis? What do our organizations, put it that way, not us individually, our organizations do to keep that going? And if somebody saw what we were doing, do they take that out of context of outside of that individual brotherhood versus the brotherhood of the general population? So that with that context in mind, yes, we may be in individual organizations, which principles may be similar, but there may be some overlap or some differences there. But when you get into what is everybody's collective goal, and you always talk about community outreach, uplift, you talk about service, all these different aspects should be the foundation of everybody, is the foundation. And correct me if I'm speaking that term, but from what I know and from the conversation I've had with many people from many organizations, that our foundational principles are the same, maybe worded a little bit differently, but it's for the betterment of when you start with the betterment of the race, you talk about how we started, but betterment of humankind as we evolved over the years. And there's still segregation when we come to that, and I'll be the first to admit it. I mean, we operate in individuality. I had to look it up. One thing I was looking up real quick was something that came across my email a couple weeks ago with the frat Alpha. They signed a MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the national NAACP a few weeks ago, and I want to get organization collaborate on education, outreach, civic engagement, leadership development, membership, and community building. Right, same type of things we're talking about right now. And that was one organization. So I go back to the point where that could have been spearheaded by NPHC as a whole, and you get everybody involved in that moving the progression forward for the humankind, right? Yes, it's still about supporting our communities and kind, but I think everybody on this call can attest to, and I'm almost sure that at least every one of our chapters has not been historically all Black.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I actually made an Asian guy when I was on the yard, so yeah, we definitely multicultural here.
Right. So we've expanded multicultural. So we look at the bigger picture, like the evolution of just what people are looking for to be a part of, whether it's to, and many people have different reasons for joining their organization, whatever that may be. But the collective as a whole, when we look at NPAC, how much stronger could we be if those organizations came together and were actually fighting in these same areas on a bigger scale, or pool their resources together?
Yeah, I think that same thing, how you're saying it, worked well when, like Brett said, when we were in need. At we did that because we were all small. There's 5, 6, 3, 2, so that made each organization step out and stand together as one to make a bigger impact on the process. And I just wondered that most of our presidents or poll marks or whatever the name that's chosen by fraternity, most of them have gone to historically Black schools or heavily Black chapters. Majority of them have. So I wonder if the thought process behind them is that, oh, well, we got to keep to ourselves to make sure we're doing right, because we've been used to that mindset of protect versus open and join together. So I mean, that's just me thinking. I know my current per mark went to FAMU, so immediately that's already separation by itself. Like that was just a campus of just you are on your own, do your own thing. So I'm wondering, as you look back, and look at your presence and see.
I think you might be on to something now. I'm tracing a couple of the last few Basala have been from HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of our last now international presidents, as of presidents and no longer general presidents, have also been from HBCUs.
That's interesting.
Let's do this real quick, because what we didn't do real quick was, can everybody give their affiliation? Can we have remember people who have not seen all of any past episode? I'm not gonna say all of them, but any past episode where it might have came up. So deference, we go back in.
92.
Omega Psi Phi.
What year? What chapter?
Spring 92, Omicron Delta.
All right.
Kappa Alpha Psi, over to Chi, Spring 2K, Art.
Alpha Phi Alpha, Fall 2000, Eta Delta, University of Miami.
Omega Psi Phi, Omicron Delta chapter, University of Miami, Spring 2006. Candidates to Q6, baby. So I want to go back. You BJ, you said something about, dang, I lost it. Dang, you threw me off.
I go back 76. Born in Brooklyn, New York.
Me find me over there in the corner.
Black Brotherhood of Earth.
Right, Lamb, baby, go ahead, throw it up. Man, no, BJ, you were talking about something about the cohesiveness, and so yeah, I think that's where I was going. So on the yard, the way I was kind of raised, and I think you kind of mature into that sense, right? Of where it becomes less about your individual organization and more about what we do as organizations as a whole in the NPAC. So, on the yard, it's always that super competitive environment. We're the best because we're the best, and you can't do anything that's going to top us because we're the best. And I'm sure all of us kind of had that mindset. I know I did while I was there. And it's great to have, because I think it just breeds that much more involvement on the university. Everybody's doing their thing, and, everybody's enhancing college life as we should, right? But then you get to a point when you get out into the real world and some of that trivial undergrad stuff doesn't matter. And so what I find, even amongst this group, the things that we're able to do as one, from completely different organizations, completely different, set of principles on paper, but still one common goal. You mature into that mindset. So I guess my question is, do you guys still feel like that's happening from the neophytes that you have on the yard at this point in time, since most of us, all of us are still very active there? Do you still feel like that sense of competitive competition like lasts with them, or is it more of a cohesive unit? And that's going to breed into my next question.
I think that it has. There's still the competitive mindset there because we still focus on who's doing what, how many people are in the yard, or what's the biggest week. But I think it's changed to more of a collective. I mean, I know my neophytes are really. I mean, my neophytes I think teamed up with the Qs a couple times and did the nasty new party, or did that whenever a lot of things going on with them, kind of tying it in, and work with the alphas too. I don't think we work with sigmas very much. We probably never will. But that's but I mean, we were able to work with them. So I would say yes, but the young guys grew up in a different mindset where their friends were pledging other ones, so they had their friends going in. So once they were during that process, it stayed as friendship, working together as organizations, not as individuals going backwards.
That goes back to the old saying that don't let the frat make you a new person. Like continue to be the same old you, right? Mm-hmm. And I've seen it too, because even some of the cats that came through recently, within the last couple of years into the chapter down there, like I'm still connected. I'm the co-advisor for the undergrad chapter now through my grad chapter, because I owe it to my undergrad chapter to do that. But also when I listen to their stories and then what's going on, they're super supportive. Some of these cats were roommates. One had just crossed OD like 2 years ago. I can't remember names of the, but they were like roommates when they were both going through their respective processes. So like when it was time for their probate, they actually were there, like screaming all year long, supporting them. Like that's how we were raised, though. I mean, I believe we all were raised like that. I mean, even though there may be still that competitiveness, when your friend or somebody across the organization, you're gonna be their support. Now, I can't say that's been on every yard, because when we travel to FIU, FAU, which are still not large Black populations, but still you didn't see that, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But at UM, you definitely saw people that were roommates, that were friends beforehand, that continued afterwards. And then we did have those crossover where you had parties, you had events, you teamed up and did stuff together because you were supporting each other, and you could still have that sense of community there. Now, has it always been that way? No.
No, definitely not. Because when I was on the yard, it wasn't that way.
Really?
Nah, we wasn't doing nothing with nobody.
Because y'all had. Wow.
I was cool with a few of the alphas. I mean, I think they had a line of like 10 or 15 that same year. And it was like 3 of them that I actually like kind of really, really hung out with, but didn't really care for the sigmas. And the kappas, they didn't. There was a lot of things, I guess, with the kappas or whatnot. While I was
06 was a very quiet year for us.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. But it transpired throughout the city, because I wasn't just like on the yard. Like I was at Flomo, at Barry, all over the place. But it was always, competition. There was never like any true cohesiveness. But through my talks with you guys, I understand that it was much, much different when you were on the yard. And so I'm trying to, how was that kind of like created? Was it just out of necessity, or was it just the upbringing? Like what was it? And it seems like it's almost better that way, in certain regards.
I think it ties back to UBS. I think UBS and Bond did that. I think being in organizations, working together with that, and then seeing, everyone, go through this process. Like me seeing BJ go through this process. We talk about like Johnny, for instance, going through process. And you saw people before you who were there. So as you went through, you knew it wasn't about separation. You said, hey, I'm going to be a Kappa, I'll be a Newt, whatever. But I'm still, this is still the crew I hang out with. So my crew never changed. And I think when your years coming in, I'll probably say around 2000 and when did Shalala start? Shalala came in around 2004.
Who?
She came Shalala.
Yeah, 2004. Yeah, that's when she came.
That's when it changed. I would say that's when things started going from the process of school being about, and maybe go backwards. And Kay, please correct me, but I think that's
Shalala
when
came in earlier than that. Shalala came in
like 2002, was she?
No, because Shalala
actually she was there when Corey was there.
The year that I was UBS president, because I remember when we had opening ceremony for Black Awareness Month, she came for 2 minutes and said, and I said, oh, we'll see you at some of the events. And she said, yeah, I'm looking forward to going to the steps. So I'd love to see you people dance.
Wow. So that that is I'm gonna pause for
I
that.
remember that.
That was, and she was still riding on President Foote's genealogy from that point in time. So once she got her foot in and was able to change the sports aspect, the school aspect, being a more trying to be the Ivy League of the South, that changed the mentality of the students coming in. And when the students were focusing on, I have to do my books, I can't really hang out with UBS, can't do these things, that changed that cohesiveness. You lost a community because they're focusing on their own thing, everyone's in their own little bubble.
So that I agree that happened, but it took a couple years for that to actually even break down. About 2005, because remember I came out because I had to do the extra semester, blah blah blah. I had to do extra. That's all
we all did.
Yeah.
But when we get that, like those last couple of groups, like 2004 or so, or 2005, 2006, that's when things really started to change. Honestly, just being still around down there, and being not too far off the art at that point in time, that's when things really started to change because people, like I said, the mindset of the students came in, and that's when you really start the privilege mentality, or the I need to do this because I want to do this for my resume type stuff. And then it was the pro fights weren't really training the right way, if that's the best way to put it.
Oh, they were missing. A lot of people were out.
A lot of people were new.
Yeah.
There was a gap of incoming neophytes across the yard. And I think that as you, like, for instance, if somebody was brought in today, like next year their dean and everybody was gone and they were left by themselves to run a chapter.
Yep.
There was a lot of that across the board. Now, I don't remember exactly with OD. But I know when that time when Johnny was there and then Corey was there too. Because Johnny was in school, then he wasn't in school, and Corey was there, and then Corey just left. So
yeah. Then you went Mason, and that was the end of that whole discussion.
Yeah. So there was so I'm not, and I can't speak for OD, but I remember there was time for like everybody's organization was time like almost all the old heads had gone and graduated.
Yep.
And there was a new breed left to do it on their own and try to figure it out. And I think that's when that sense of we are who we are and we don't need anybody started. And again, I can't say it was necessarily bad because organizations still thrive in their own rights. It just wasn't a cohesive, wasn't there. That's even when the sorority started blowing up and getting big. But
yeah, they were getting big.
That's a whole nother conversation we can have after that one too.
No clue.
Carol, fix your face.
No clue at all.
But I mean, at the same time, as well as the Greek mindset, like I said, UBS did the same thing. The bond disappeared for a minute. Like a lot of things that were there, MSA chain. I mean, all of them that was there to really make that a cohesive unit and make the spider web grow, just started to just fade away. And I mean, it's coming back slowly but surely. And I haven't been to campus to see it in live action, but listening through the association, listening through my neos coming in there and listening is that, okay, well, you guys are starting to collect again and get back to where you were. But there was that web that started to fade away. And it was me, myself, and I.
So let me ask you guys a question. Do you guys think that HBCU Greeks look down on non-HBCU Greeks? And I ask that question because I've only seen that interaction on one occasion. There was a gentleman that belongs to one of you's fraternity that used to tell people all the time he was from the Alpha chapter. So do you guys feel that way? And with the situation now being where you all have just said that many of your direct leadership has been from HBCUs, is there almost like maybe you guys haven't had enough time to think about this, but is there almost like a unrecognized rift within the individual organizations that is stopping you all from being as powerful as you could be?
No.
I would say that, yeah, well, I know being at UM and looking at other chapters, like, no, there's the big boys. You know, you got the Howards, you got the big boys that are guaranteed no matter what. They're like, yeah, the FAMUs, and it's not a rift because you work your way through your process and everything else. You get to know them, so they know who you are. So Miami holds a very high standard, but I'm not sure if FIU holds the same standard because they have the history going forward. But then, there are some HBCUs that you look at, like you guys are just not on the level. So then it separates the we're a little bit better than you, we go to you mindset. And this is for our partnering Florida schools. That was just like, oh, I don't go over there because that's the crazy school. That's the kid that's just still the little out of the wig. But then you go up to, you go to FAMU, you go up to Howard or anything else, you're like, oh, it's different for us, Indiana, even though it's not historic, it's alpha, but you would go there and be a totally different mindset. So yes, there is a rift, just like there is in natural life. Like, some parts of the neighborhood you go to that's just like, oh, well, yeah, I hang out with them, but I'm not going to go over there too much longer than 8 o'clock. Go home. So it's the same mindset when it comes to some of the HBUs, and that rift is naturally there. I believe it is there. Does it affect us on a top high level? No, but it is interesting that most of our presidents, our international presidents, are from there. So
this conversation started. Well, before we even address Greek, I think to answer your question, you also go back to the conversation we had a while ago about HBCUs versus PWIs, right? HBCUs versus PWIs, and is there that sense of, just as a Black student, is not going to a HBCU period, going to a PWI, and then you add on top of that pledging a Black Greek fraternity and a PWI versus a HBCU. So when I look at the question you asked, yes, there is a sense of I believe there's a sense of, yes, you have to prove yourself, your chapter. And unfortunately, it's turned into a lot of the lawsuits and stuff that's happened over the last few years at certain places. But at the same time, I also think that, like, I can attest that the FLOMO chapter, Delta Psi, was the reason we were established at University of Miami. Without them, we wouldn't have been.
Very true.
Like, they are the ones who came down and helped us charter at University of Miami. Wow. So Delta Psi will be linked to us through our history, is on paper.
You said they helped you guys too, Art?
Yeah. Yep. That's not you. Mm-hmm.
So there wouldn't have been a charter line at UM that year, at least in 1970 at UM, had not Delta Psi brothers come down and chartered the line down there.
Yeah.
So that's the link. And for those that don't know, Florida Memorial is the HBCU in Miami, Florida. A lot of people I talk about it, but I don't even know. Florida Memorial College, University
now, yeah. We were there, it was college.
Mike, you want to speak on it, or you want to?
I think we may. I'm gonna let you
do that for OD.
So there's influence. OD and KG have Florida Memorial have a strong tie, and they've had strong ties throughout history. And just with like any familial relationship, there are rifts here and there. We have fun.
I'm gonna go on mute.
But no, I think the answer to your question from my point of view is no, because everywhere that we go is friendship is the big thing with Omega Psi Phi, right? So whether it's a HBCU, Alpha chapter, Beta chapter, whatever, I mean, like Art said, you stand on your process wherever you go, and that's just a fact of the matter. But and certain chapters, Alpha chapter, they have a certain air about them for fraternity, and then when you have historical chapters like Beta, Lincoln University, have the history behind them and things like that. So there's certain things, I guess, that people can speak to that might put them on a pedestal, but I've never experienced that at any HBCU I've gone to or running into anybody. I mean, there's a certain level of arrogance that, we run into from time to time, but I think that's what happens when you put two A-type, strong A-type people in a room sometimes, you have that. And so when you talk about it, the impact that we have, I think was the second part of your question, right? On a national scale, I don't think that gets in the way. I think there are other things that get in the way of the impact that we could have, and it's largely because of the disconnect I feel that there exists from the top of the organization down to the people on the ground or the undergraduate chapters. And I also think that, you know, being unfinancial myself, active but unfinancial, and this is a question that I was going to pose to you guys. I know BJ, you mentioned the grad chapter and your co-advisor, so I know you're doing you're doing your thing, you're handling your responsibilities. I was going to pose that question to Art and Mike D to see how you guys feel about it, because being a non-financial member but still active and kind of working in the frat, but not in the same capacity or not in the capacity that I probably could or should be, am I part of the problem? So are we part of the problem?
You are.
Yes, I am.
I'm financial. Been financial ever since, you know, we're going forward. But I've been trying to find a home chapter. But I've a home grad chapter, so I keep moving. So that works for me. Jersey's pretty spread apart. But I still live through Richmond Prime chapter in Miami through Winston Warrior. My great grand. So my great grand, I still work through him through my chapter. So I'm very involved in the chapter undergrad, but just not officially with the title of a grad chapter. But I'm financial, and it does help. It does help having that experience in there, and I can keep ahead of the young hotheads that came right before me, and keep them in check, because you're that barrier in between the young and the old. And it needs somebody like you, myself, to be able to say, hey, I remember that, but we got to look forward. And if you don't have that person in between, then you get the old guys yelling at the young guys, and then it just turns into a crazy riff of, well, then let's just be our own.
Exactly. And that's what I kind of feel like is part of the issue. There's not a large enough influx, or a large enough influx to the point where we're influential in some of the decisions that are kind of made that impact us the most.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, what did you think on that one, man? I see you shake your head.
I agree with every piece of that except for the financial piece. Like I have an issue with the being financial or not relating or having any correlation to the amount of influence that you can have. So if you are an influential person, you have sound judgment, you have great ideas that you can bring to the fraternity. What difference does it make whether I've paid my dues or not, if the outcomes of what we say will make our community better, our fraternity better, and each of us better as people? So the fact that
I ride the fence here, and I know riding the fence is not a safe or an easy place to sit, because that's for a while, for after undergrad until 2015, that I was not financial. But I've had the conversation many times that because once you leave undergrad, you start many different seasons in your life. That could be career, that could be family, that could be without the career for a while, that could be finances not won't allow you. And to be in an organization, trust me, you're gonna shell out some money for national dues, for chapter dues, for events, for all this other stuff, and dues just keep going up and up and up. That being said, I understand the process of why that needs to happen. But like you said, Mike, if you can loan that time or guidance to your undergrad chapters or anybody there, you're definitely needed. Mm-hmm. But we also do need everybody to be even members at large. Yeah. And I say that because, I've put this out there before, and when we were talking about it the first time, unfortunately, for the fraternity to exist in the future, it has become a business. Mm-hmm. Right? When argue with me, I will wait a minute, Mike, before you say it. It's becoming a business. It's not that it's a necessarily a bad thing. People will take the bad concepts of it, but the business side of it is what's in my organization, at least, was squashing my undergrad chapters, and that's what I have a problem with, right? So let me at the same time, is that, like Carol mentioned, that once you go through your process, you're considered a brother for life. You know the intimates, the intricacies of everything. You can be recognized, right? But in order for us to promote the organization for longevity, we need brothers to be financially active. But also because when you look at it, some of the things that disconnect there where we not have guidance are causing all these lawsuits and everything like that the fraternity is going to financially be done and not be able to exist.
Okay, so let me present it this way. Okay, so there's always this business side that people bring up. And I think of it this way. So you were a kid, we were all kids, we went to the park, we played basketball. That's it. Everything was good. You met up with your friends, had conversation. Weekend, you play basketball. Summer, you play basketball. You go to school. You may or may not make the high school team, but eventually people kind of separate themselves. Some go on to college. Some go on to the NBA. Those guys in the NBA get paid. And they say there's this business side of it, but there's the love of the game that I will always have. And I see that as there's a business side to the frat. I absolutely understand that. But for people to associate it to where they are so closely tied together to where if you don't have the business side, you won't have the fraternities or the sororities. And that's the part where I struggle because in that same analogy, if you don't have the NBA, you are still going to play basketball. You are still going to have the love of basketball. You are still going to have people that will come together. There are areas that are within everything that we do that doesn't require the financial part. And I think that's where this whole issue has come in, is that people have gotten to a point where they say, I won't listen to you. We won't do anything because you're not financial. You're not paying dues. We can only have these conversations in a conference convention for all of us instead of all of us coming together as we said, the 8, the 9, and just a park atmosphere that has nothing to do with anything to have the conversation and then grow from there.
But that lesson is learned. The lesson that they're about not being able to have a voice at the table without being financial comes back from undergrad. I mean, there are many times where I, as Pomark, was like, you can't come into the meeting until you pay your chapter dues.
Correct.
There's no offense to you. I'll talk to you outside. You like literally you can't be here because you got to follow the rules of Robert Rules of Order and so forth, and the fraternity rules. But that, I mean, we still can socialize and be a social network, a social fraternity outside of this process. But the fraternities have to live and pay all these bills and everything else with the support of our brothers. And our work isn't going to pay those bills. So if we have 1 million brothers, but only 100,000 is paying, you know, what could we do with everybody putting their money to help the fraternity get where we need to go?
Dang, so Art took the words out of my mouth. Sorry.
But what's the deal, though? I mean,
hold on, we're not finished. We're gonna break that down because I think that's one of the major issues within that. That's a major issue right there. That's a major issue.
What's a major issue?
This battle for a little bit. But go ahead. What you gonna say?
What are the bills? Like, what are the bills a result of individually or collectively moving the community forward? And did I have any say in those bills? For you to require me to pay a certain dollar amount for what you, and therefore my money can't be used for something that could be better for my community that we're working on as a chapter. So
Yes.
for me to give you a dollar amount to go to a national organization to pay national insurance for something that I have nothing to deal with, allow me as my organization to get our own insurance if we have that issue. Allow me and my organization to raise our own money for whatever we're going to do in our community and build it that way when we need it as a group.
So you want sub?
I can respect that, and I totally see that. But then I challenge because the same sense that yes, you can say this money needs to go here, and that can be done at your boule or at your conferences, or wherever it is. You can. That's where it's decided on those side meetings, not the big fancy ones. It's the ones that are in the small rooms that says, "Oh, let me show you a card. Let's go over the budget."
There it is. See, but
But you're making decisions because the people are in the offices. There's someone that needs to control the flow of the money. It has to be controlled some way. And if your voice isn't heard, you can't complain to say my voice is not heard because in order to be at the table, you got to pay to get in the door.
Correct.
There, you're good to go.
But at no point in time was that brought up as saying if we are saying that you got to pay to get in the door. If you mention that before you get into your process, you're blackballed.
But you did though. You did when you signed your paperwork. When you signed your paperwork to get in there, the first thing they said to you was you gotta bring up $1,200 or whatever. Or I remember it was back then. It was before you can do anything, you need this money. And now it's
$325.
Oh, that was very cheap for you.
Correct. And as a collective group, we did what we had to do to get that money.
I tell you this, it's almost $3,000 for one kid now to come into
Correct.
And about 60% of that's for insurance.
Correct. But if you think about that even the statement that we're having is about business. So like, it's not about anything dealing with the first.
because the national organization can't further its missions without money.
But it can't
Right.
further without the individual people. It's like,
Right. Hold on. Let's talk about the mission though. So you gave the analogy of basketball and playing basketball on the court, and you still got the love of the game, right?
mhm.
Did we get now? Was the organization started just for the love of the organization?
It was started for the brotherhood of the gentleman that started it.
What was, but the purpose of our respective
It was not. They did not say we're paying a fee.
No,
And-
they didn't say it was.
Ooh, can this Roman jump in real quick?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to use another analogy, right? So he used the basketball, right? He used basketball. I'm going to use the black church, right? If you take away the building fund and the collection, can you still have a church with just the Bible being left?
You can have church anywhere.
Well, what the hell? I gotta pay money for it to be the thing.
But we're talking about influence. Now,
Will the black church stop being influential
without the money?
without money?
Yes.
Will the pastor still beside being the pastor?
You still need the money to operate.
See,
You need some type of
called by God.
backing or some type of resource to operate at the end of the day. And if we're talking about reaching masses or doing programs along, in the community or otherwise, no matter how big or how large, what kind of impact are you going to have if you got NBA talent, but all you're going to do because you don't want to continue that impact is play at
the rocker. That's it.
Right. So what influence are you having? You know what I'm saying? There's a cap at that.
That's a different situation because you're not paying to be an NBA player.
Right.
And look, from the outside, right? From the outside, when you did your process, right? You paid to do your process.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's consistent intake, right? So theoretically, the money will never go away because you're always having intake, right?
If you have continuing intake, yes.
Yeah.
If you have continuing intake. So there's always a money flow.
There is.
But
where does that money go to though? That's the thing. So when you start
that is the question.
But if you're involved like Art or BJ or myself to a degree, then you find out where your income is going or that operation or those funds are being channeled through. But the only way to know that is if you're in those meetings, if you're in that room.
Okay, good. So I'm not in those meetings. But here's my question.
Right.
There are over 800,000 members of black fraternities and sororities.
How many of them pay dues?
Are you talking about financially or just members?
Right.
Just members.
Difference.
Just members. And I'm bringing us back to the whole origin of this conversation, right? Now we're getting into this financial thing. Look, there's a financial thing in every black institution, right? That we've got ourselves caught up in, right? So we're not going to be able to solve that. But what I do want to know is, and Brett, you were there with me when Minister Louis Farrakhan was asking for 10,000 men to go into black communities to change those communities, right? We never got the plan. We don't know what was supposed to happen with those 10,000. He's still asking about them. But if there are over 800,000 members out there, where is the influence?
Now it's there. And it's there from people like Mike who do things like the Community Cup. Because
I'm not financial, so I can't tell nobody.
You can tell the whole world. You just can't put Omega Psi Phi on it. That's all that is.
That's the whole side.
But you do have that. You know what I'm saying? So there is a certain level of influence. And I think that's what happens. Because you get to a point where you don't have to pay this money and you don't have to sit in these long meetings and you don't have to be in the bickering and back and forth and deal with the politics of service. You can absolutely put your own nonprofit organization together, get your own team, and do your thing in the community. And I think that's what a lot of us fall back on because at some point, the issues with, specific people in our respective organizations have gotten to the point where they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
I still have the passion for the organization. I still have the passion. So I figured out a way where I can do my thing. I can be involved and do the social aspects and stuff, but I don't have to deal with all the other bullshit on the back end.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And there's a lot of brothers out there that feel that same exact way, because there's a lot of politics in the game, a lot.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it's old beef from undergrad that's been dragged through grad to.
Yeah, let it go, man. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't make it when you were supposed to make it, you know, you made it in the 90s and you was a renegade for a little while. They got the Get Right program, man. We're gonna,
right.
we'll get you straight at some point. You gotta let it go.
Well,
there it is, man. We're gonna end that discussion right.
Every breath says it all.
We're gonna wrap that.
There's one more piece of that, because I can speak directly to the number, like Carol just said. Like in our southern region, right? We just had our southern conference this week, so I just got notes from the conference this weekend. Today, it just ended today, right? Total brothers registered 1,258 in Jackson, Mississippi, right? That's where they're at this weekend. So the report came back for reclamation. So everybody's trying to get brothers back involved. In the southern area, so that comes Tennessee, southern region, Tennessee all the way down to Florida, over to Alabama, Mississippi, right? Mm-hmm. So everything south of that. There's 6,600 inactive brothers that we know about that live in this area. And that's not including people who might have moved down here. There's people that just have addresses from when they originally became part of the fraternity and are still here. Mm. So when I go back to the impact and people doing the thing, and I'm pretty sure a majority of those brothers are doing something, right? Whether it's NAACP, local communities, they're teaching, they're out doing this workshop, this whatever the case may be, they're doing something. And I totally get what Mike's saying. But we're talking about the longevity of an entity, and an entity that you actually decided to go through a process to dedicate your time, blood.
And we didn't even get to that question. Is like, what is the longevity of our respective organizations?
I look at it now, and a whole nother, we can continue the conversation another time, but when you look at part of the things that came out of that meeting too, just hearing brothers talk, was that like most of our organizations, as quiet as it's kept, is 1 or 2 lawsuits away from being done.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that right there, then you really only left with, well, I'm an alpha, but I don't have an organization to stand on or nothing that really does anything. But I was made an alpha back in 2000.
Yeah.
But I pledge.
Mm-hmm. I
bet you if the judge presiding over that case ain't financial, they'll be willing to make an exception.
That's a problem, man. We ain't got enough judges.
It's too much.
We need more judges. We need some insurance brokers, man. How long, man? How long till we get DC and a bunch of other financial people, get some financial Greeks to get together and put this insurance company together so we can save our frat.
Is that what?
But you the non-financial ones got the ideas, but they can't vote.
That's a no-win situation.
Yeah.
Right? On the insurance side, that's a no-win situation.
Okay, so what happens if national? So what happens if the national go? They gonna take your brands and your frat stuff?
Nah, I mean, the frat will live, but the frat will be essentially dead. That's what the organization dies.
Toys R Us still has Toys R Us brands out there,
right?
Right.
But no one wants to have their organization be nostalgia.
I can still get an '86 box Chevy today.
But where does it die? Like if the people still
have no new blood coming into your organization,
why do you have to stop new blood? Why if the rituals don't got nothing to do with being paid? It's just a process that you go through. You go through everything that you go through with.
So if the organization
why we're in this boat now because of the rituals being done without being paid.
No, the reason why we in this is because folks started with the financial, non-financial way back in the day. So I would say no. So from the 92 experience, like I experienced the transition from the underground to the above ground to the financial to the non-financial. Yeah. So that whole transition happening in grad chapter meetings of this brother was talking and that
I challenge you. Come to a grad chapter meeting. Because I feel like and we're gonna leave it here, but I feel like a lot of the sentiment is based in 92, 93, 94, 95, that whole 90s era, it was a beast. It was a different animal. But if you came and saw some things and saw how the frat is different, you might be singing a little bit different tune. So I challenge you to do that. Now, if you come and you don't, and it is what it is, and you're not with it, then hey, at least you came. But
if I ever win the lotto, Mike, I'll give you the money.
Appreciate it. Cause I ain't
Mike gonna have the money in a couple weeks.
I'm sure you're due.
It's the principalities that's involved.
And to reclaim is pretty cheap.
Principalities. I ain't never been lost. I'm right here.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you stay tuned with us on that.
Big brother, we gotta get. Who was his dean?
Who was Mike?
Damien Severa.
There we go. Make phone call.
Big brother Grape Ape.
Yeah.
I've heard that name before, Sally.
Damien cool as hell, man. But Damien, boy, yeah.
Go on mute, Brett. Go on mute.
Anyway, make sure you stay connected with us, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, we're going to have a great discussion around Jordan Peele's latest release, Us. I wanted to talk about it tonight, but I got to give my guys a few more days to go check it out. But it's an amazing movie if you haven't seen it yet, or you only saw parts of it like me because you was too tired and you fell asleep. Check that thing out. It's
you on mute now, Brett.
You put me on mute now?
Yeah, man, I can't. The image wasn't in my head, man. I'm good. I ain't going to see that movie.
Mike ain't going to see that at all, man.
Bro, you got to see it, man. You'll love it. I promise.
I've seen enough.
No. What you saw?
No, you did not see any.
I saw enough.
No, man. It's a great movie. But anyway, moving right along. Faison, what you got for us this week, man, in Art's Corner?
So I like to go back occasionally to financial mindset. So we're going to rewind back to the financial set that I said back maybe 10, 12 episodes ago. I talked about the spreadsheet to make yourself better, filling out information, letting go. Well, I actually got a phone call from my friends that I gave a spreadsheet to, and she officially called me and said, all right, thank you so much. I am now officially, I made my last payment on my car. I'm officially now debt free because I saw what was the problem across all my accounts and was able to narrow down, make payments and adjust. So this is a reminder that it's not about getting big lump sum and paying it all off, but the slow grind to getting right. Take your time on it, find out what's important, look at your interest rates and grind it out slowly but surely. And when you get to that zero, it's nothing better than being able to look at the Sallie Mae bill and seeing it say your bill's been paid off in full. And that message came back to me recently and I just saw the email and I am ecstatic and I'm going on to the next thing.
Clause in there, Fresh. Need that. Hell yeah.
So what can you do with that extra payment you send out to somebody else in your own financial life? Amazingness. There you go.
Mike, that was a subliminal message for you. Hey, Carol, I saw you had to eat your words, man. Go ahead and get it in, bro.
Oh, man, all I was going to say is that Us is already the highest grossing horror film debut. Like, it has the biggest debut of any horror film. Huh?
At 70? It's still at 70 mil?
I don't know where it's at, but it already has.
I saw something say it was at 70.
It's the biggest opening weekend for a horror film.
I didn't even think it was like a horror film. I guess it is that thriller suspense horror film, I guess. I mean, it has some horror film music, but man, that thing is it's like it's a history lesson. That's the hell it is.
It's crazy.
But yeah, Mike, you got to see it, bro.
Yeah, can't wait.
Growth Alchemist. Take us home, baby.
Man, this was a Greek podcast, man. Where you want me to take us home to? I mean,
man, you was doing a whole lot of writing, man.
No, man, I was doodling. I wasn't writing. Listen, man, I can't put something out there. So for those of you out there,
Mike,
be careful who you align yourself with. And make sure that you don't just look at the benefit for today. What is the benefit for years from now? And are you willing to have the same commitment 20 years from now as you do today? And that goes for organizations, projects, whatever it may be, marriage. Beyond the excitement of planning the wedding and having this big wedding, are you willing to put in the work that's necessary to maintain after the fact?
Right.
And that's something that I think we get really excited about when things present themselves, but we don't always think about the long game. We always think about the short game. So think about your long game before you commit.
Mm-hmm.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for listening here with us on the 13th floor, where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing.
27 years.
10.
The 13th floor.
Oh, wow.
$325, man.
The 13th floor.